So, second Sunday of Lent, we continue on the journey, and we're going to look at the same text this week that we looked at last week. Because last week we stopped at baptism, which is the very first part of the text. This week we're going to follow Jesus into the wilderness, and we're going to look at a translation called The Message, and it's referred to as the test. So, next, Jesus was taken into the wild by the Spirit for a test. The devil was ready to give it. Jesus was prepared for the test by fasting 40 days and 40 nights. That left him, of course, in a state of extreme hunger, which the devil took advantage of in the first test. "Since you are the Son of God, speak the word that will turn these stones into loaves of bread." Jesus answered, quoting Deuteronomy, "It takes more than bread to stay alive. It takes a steady stream of words from God's mouth." From the second test, the devil took him into the holy city. He sat him on top of a temple and said, "Since you are God's son, jump." The devil goaded him by quoting Psalm 91. "He has placed you in the care of angels. They will catch you so that you won't so much as stub your toe on a stone." Jesus countered this with another citation from Deuteronomy. "Don't you dare test the Lord your God." For the third test, the devil took him to the peak of a high mountain. He gestured expansively, pointing out all the earth's kingdoms, how glorious they all were. Then he said, "They're yours, lock, stock, and barrel. Just go down on your knees and worship me, and they're yours." Jesus' refusal was curt. "Beat it, Satan." He backed his rebuke with the third quotation from Deuteronomy. "Worship the Lord your God and only him. Serve him with absolute single-heartedness." The test was over. The devil left, and in his place, angels came and took care of Jesus' needs. And hear these words from Deuteronomy again. This is after they have spent, Moses and the Israelites have spent 40 days in the desert, or 40 years, a little longer, in the desert. "God, your God has blessed you in everything you have done. God has guarded you in your travels through the immense universe. For 40 years now, God, your God, has been right here for you. You haven't lacked one thing." If you've ever been to what they refer to as the Holy Land, Palestine, Israel, you'll note that this area around the Jordan River where Jesus was baptized is about 60 miles long and 20 miles wide. It's very desert-like, it's bleak, and it's barren, and it's rocky. It's not a very inviting place. This is what we believe historically is the place that is referred to in the Bible when Jesus went into the wilderness. And really, it is a place where nothing lives. Even the Bedouins, who can really live in most any circumstance or situation, will not go there because there's just no place for sheep and goats to graze. There's just nothing there to help you live. So with this in mind, I ask the question, well, why would Jesus go there? And why did he go here at this high point in his moment when he's just come out of the water? He's been blessed with the Spirit. He's been drenched in God's love. Why would he go there then? Perhaps it's because he had to step away to contemplate this new life. For this is the moment that Jesus came to realize that he was fully human and fully divine. He had to step away from the comforts of life to really explore and experience the gift that he had been given. He had to be mindful of the gift and how he might be tempted to misuse the gift for self or immediate gratification. But even greater than that, he could have been tempted to be less than God called him to be, something that we all struggle with on a regular basis. In our text today, Jesus encounters Satan and the devil, which begs the question, who is this Satan and who is this devil? It's somebody we've encountered over our faithful lives, right? It's this being that we've encountered. But why would a God who is all-powerful give this guy so much power? How could a loving and knowing God give such an evil force a stronghold as to tempt Jesus? I am always so challenged by the devil and Satan and hell. It was something I accepted on a regular basis, but then I went to seminary, and seminary suggested maybe this is not a place at all. Maybe Satan, the devil, hell is something that we experience right here on earth. It's not someplace else. Something to ponder. Marcus Borg, who is a theologian who recently passed away, said this about the stories of the Bible that involve Satan and hell. He said, the events in these stories never really actually happened, but the events in these stories are always happening. Let me say that again, lest there be any doubt. They never actually happened, but they're always happening. That's what makes sense of these stories, and that's what makes these stories so great, is because this stuff in these stories is something that happens over and over and over again. I raise this today because as we continue on this Lenten journey, I want you to consider the role of the Bible and the stories of Jesus in your own life. Consider if you think they're the literal, true Word of God, or if you think it is metaphorical, or if you think they really happened or it never happened. The only thing that matters is that you sort that out between you and God and the Bible. I believe that God works through all of it. And if you believe it's literal, or if you believe it's metaphor, God works anyway. See, what's really important in this story is temptation is part of life. Each and every one of us, each and every day, struggle with temptation. Each and every one of us, and all of us together as humanity, struggle with temptation. This grand human experiment that we're caught up in requires us to struggle with temptation. And in many ways, we too have struggled with the very issues that Jesus is tempted with here with the devil. For me, I've put them down to these three things: food, fame, and fortune. The first temptation that Satan suggests Jesus do is when he's very hungry, 40 days into it, that he turns stones into bread. 40 days and nights, the guy is pretty hungry. Have you ever been so hungry that you can't function? Have you ever been so hungry that you get mad, something they call hangry these days? It hits the very best. Chloe Kim, did you see her big win this past week, Chloe Kim at the Olympics? Right before her big win for the gold medal, she tweeted, "Wish I had finished my breakfast sandwich, but my stubborn self decided not to, and now I'm hangry." Now, see, I think this is what fasting can lead to. For her, it led to a gold medal. And I think that's what fasting can lead people to. It can lead you to be better. It's just a matter of what you do with the space in between. We all know what it's like to be hangry. We all know what it's like to be hangry, and we can either use that to do good in this world and move to another place, or we can fill ourselves with lots of different things and try to get over it, and it doesn't really work. There's an author, her name is Janine Roth. She's written a book called Feeding the Hungry Heart, about how so often we don't feed ourselves food for nourishment, but to try to deal with our feelings. She said, we eat the way we eat because we're afraid to feel the way we feel. I think that's kind of interesting. See, when you step away from food and you're hungry and you just take time to be in the hunger, perhaps you too could win a gold medal or be taken to a new place and in relationship with God. I would encourage all of us during Lent to be mindful of the food and the role that food plays in our lives. Lent is a time to realign our lives and be mindful indeed that we cannot live by bread alone, that we need each other, and that we need to be in relationship with God to feed our hungry hearts. The second temptation that the devil gives Jesus is this thing called fame. Fame. Satan suggests that Jesus jump off the temple and land on the ground like an act in the circus. But Jesus, we believe, had the authority and the ability to do that, and if he had done so, he would have gained a lot of popularity with the politicians and the religious leaders. He would have been front headline news, and fame would have been his. But he knew well that that was about him, and he was there to present something very counterculture to what they had. He resisted this. He wasn't about the praise of others. He was not a people pleaser. He was one who knew it was not all about him, but it was all about everybody else. I think that it's an important point for our world today to talk about this fame. We have a celebrity culture. We hold our celebrities up. We are about finding ways to improve ourselves, not based on our faith, but based on the latest, greatest celebrity who's out there, movie stars, music star, politicians. The world is filled with examples of people who made it, celebrities in the world, people who have everything. Yet if you look, most often, too often, these people lose that fame and it's fleeting, and many are ruined at times. This past week, Billy Graham passed away, 99 years old. It's possible that Graham had preached over the years to some 215 million people in 185 countries and territories. He also had millions of people see him through television and video and webcast and film. He wrote 25 books, and his counsel was sought by many of the U.S. presidents. He was the first major evangelist to speak inside the Iron Curtain, and he was also one who refused to speak in South Africa during apartheid. Through the praise and criticism of public life that spanned nearly a century, he held fast to his conviction that faith in Jesus Christ is the only way to salvation. Billy Graham believed that his only purpose in life was to help people find a personal relationship with God, which for him, he believed, came through knowing Jesus Christ. It was never about the fame. It was about him connecting with his mission, which was his faith in Jesus Christ. Graham followed Jesus' example completely, recalling that Jesus did resist fame at all cost. Even a few days before his death, Jesus rode into town on a donkey. If you note, Graham never really took to the lifestyle that after preaching to 215 million people, he probably could have taken up. He just simply knew what his focus was and what he wanted. I think it's important for us because we've talked about this on a regular basis. That's why we're offering the SHAPE class, is we're all created with a divine purpose and meaning. We need to find that focus, and that focus is what needs to drive our daily life. If you haven't figured that out yet, I encourage you to take Lent, these 40 days, to do just that. God, why have you given me life, breath, and movement? And how can I make a difference in the world? Who knows, you may have 215 million people out there that need to experience the message that you have to share. I'm sure it is a message bound in love some way, bound in making a difference and caring for others. All you have to do is name it and claim it, and God will go to work on it. The third temptation was fortune. Jesus was offered fortune. Satan encouraged him to use his gifts and talents to have it all. Yet he knew that what was in this world, all the money in the world, was fleeting. Jesus knew there was much more, and the true treasures we're seeking are beyond money. He teaches us here that treasure can be found, but it's most often found within. And within you find giving yourselves to others, our time, our talents, and treasures is really where you find fortune in life. As you know, many of us, I think about 16 of us, returned from Fort Myers on Friday after participating in a Habitat for Humanity project. It was one of those times when people, all of us on the trip, 16, 18 of us, I believe, were given the opportunity to explore what fame and fortune and food really is. We discovered as a community, God will feed you not only with the great food that Betty and Kathy prepared for us, but with the conversation at the dinner table every night, where folks would share about their day and the people they encountered. We were all touched and our spirits fed by the encounters we had with people seeking food at the co-op and the volunteers who come there week after week. We found fame last week in celebrating one another. From a team that was insulating a house for the very first time, nobody had even touched a piece of insulation, and together they figured out how to work together as a team, to those who had true building skills that were with us and were able to really make a difference on the outsides of these houses. We found fame among one another, supporting one another in the different tasks that we had been given. We found fame. The most famous woman that we met on this trip was a young woman who was doing her sweat equity for her house, a single mother with 3 children who was preparing her house for her home. She was the most famous in our time together. We discovered just how we have riches beyond our understanding, in that we have in life, what we have in life is so much. What we have in life is so much. We had the honor of stepping away from our life here in Indiana, from our jobs and from our ways of being, to share and be in service to others. That is really something else. We are honored by the ability to go off and to seek to make a difference in the world, because most people don't have that opportunity. We were able to step out of our ordinary life in Indiana and step into what it really means to say, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." Now, I know we all came home tired, but our souls are revived and hungry to help some more. We're humbled by the fame of a young woman who is seeking to make it in the world with her children. Perhaps you come here today seeking to try to find some satisfaction in life, seeking to fill yourself with whatever lasting offering is on the Food Network, or finding fame in the latest, greatest post and the fortune in your stock portfolio. Maybe you are seeking to fill your cup here today with alcohol, and still you find yourself thirsty. Jesus reminds us today that there is nothing that you can do to satisfy your life aside from God. Nothing at all. Our closing clip is from a movie called Wild. It was a book written by Cheryl Strayed. What she did was she took an 1,100-mile hike on the Pacific Crest Trail in 1995 after she lost her mother, after she struggled with drug addiction. At the age of 22, she watched her mother die, and afterwards she knew she had to do something very different with her life. So she stepped into the wilderness, away from it all, to find true meaning in life. And along that journey, she does indeed find fame and fortune and love. I believe that Lent is calling all of us into some kind of wilderness of ourselves. For there we will not find earthly food, fame, and fortune, but the true meaning of life.